All right. Hey there, everybody. This is Jeff from Learning Revolution, and I'm very pleased to be joined here today by my colleague, Robert Lunte. I'm going to have him introduce himself in just a minute. So we still got some people coming into the room, so we'll give folks just a second here to keep gathering in. But I'll note that I am coming to you from Carrboro, North Carolina, a little town next to Chapel Hill, where the University of North Carolina is. We affectionately call our town the Paris of the Piedmont. So you can tell we have a pretty darn high opinion of ourselves here in Carrboro. And it is a great place to live. Love for you to type into the chat, where are you coming in from today? We'd love to see, who's coming from where all around the world. So please type that in. Robert, where are you coming in from?
Well, I'm coming in from Wood River Valley, Haley, Ketchum, and Sun Valley, Idaho. Ski resort up here. It's sort of like the Vale of Idaho, the Vale of Idaho, I suppose. Yeah.
Nice. We have a nice spread here. We got Manila in the Philippines, Nina coming in from there, Ireland, Harry, got Robert from Montreal, Susie coming in from the Bay Area, Lebanon, Tennessee. I've always loved you get those names like Lebanon in Tennessee. That's great. Near Nashville. Great. So yeah, keep typing that in. Let us know where you're coming in from, and we'll ask you throughout this to put your questions. You can put them into the chat. Hopefully you saw some of the slides that were rotating when you're coming in, but you'll notice on your screen you got the chat where you'll be able to put in questions. There is also a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen or the top of the screen, just depending on how you're arranged. If you really want to make sure that we definitely see a question, it's much better to put it into the Q&A because things can get lost in the chat if it gets a little crazy. So just keep that in mind, but feel free to use both of those. And the whole purpose here, we're going to take about an hour and talk about or answer, really respond to your questions. We received quite a few questions in advance. We asked people to send those in. So we're going to address those first, since those folks took the time and effort to send those in advance and gave us a little bit of time to think about them. But we'll have time beyond that. So, if you're on here and you've got a question you didn't manage to send in advance, you can certainly do that. And we're going to do our best to get to everything. If we don't get to everything, we can follow up by email. We'll make sure that your question gets answered, basically, is the bottom line. So just a quick 2 cents about me. Real quick for, some of you might be newer to the Learning Revolution tribe. Some of you may have been around for a while, but it may still be the first time you're actually seeing me on video. I don't do a whole lot of video stuff, something I plan to do more going forward. But I've been running Learning Revolution for about 7 years now. I mean, it's a site that's meant to be a resource for course creators. I have a much longer history than that in the world of education, online education, adult lifelong learning. I've worked at startups and/or had my own company for the last 20 years and have done everything from creating and running a learning management system, having an online course creation business where we built hundreds of different modules for thousands of modules for online courses. So I've really just been kind of deeply steeped in this whole education, business of education. Everything I do is oriented towards, not academic degrees, not towards corporate training. It's towards entrepreneurs and businesses and organizations that create and sell learning experiences to adult learners. So if you're in that camp, which you probably are, I'm assuming you are, if you're in this webinar, then that's what I bring to this. That's my experience in this. And Robert, I'm going to ask you to say a little bit about your background, what you're bringing to the table here.
Sure. Thank you, Jeff. That's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. I spent about 28 years, maybe 25 years, building a school for musicians, singers, and voiceover. In that capacity, wrote a best-selling book and produced probably about currently 9 online courses that helps singers learn how to train to become better singers. But the skill sets that came from producing those courses has been repurposed into CourseCREEK. And so I have spent thousands of hours in front of a camera, instructional design, working with platforms, and helping people learn how to, including myself, learning a lot of the things that need to be known about doing successful course projects the hard way. And through CourseCREEK, we hope to help you guys avoid some of those headaches and some of those challenges. And anyways, I'm here to help you guys learn how to get courses up and running and implement. And excited to be here.
Great, fantastic. I see we've got a question from Michael about a concise set of steps to build up from zero to a first saleable course. We'll definitely we'll get into that as part of the questions that we answer here today. We are, though, going to start, as I said, with some of the ones that got sent ahead of time, because we appreciate the folks taking the time to do that. We're going to try to get pretty rapid fire here. If we don't fully answer your question, follow up with us. We'll try to make sure you get all of the information you need. And you'll see me sort of may look like I'm staring off into space or something. I'm going to be looking at the questions that we've been sent in. And the first one we'll address is from Will, who's saying that he'd like to develop a platform or use an existing one where people can exchange knowledge and make a profit in the process. Basically, he's in another country, trying to serve the people there. And he wants to create, I think, sort of a marketplace type site, basically, and has asked, is Udemy the way to go on that, or is there, some other way to go with that? And for anybody, I'll take a first pass at this, and then obviously I'll jump into, if you're looking to aggregate courses, obviously Udemy does that well. Udemy does that for its whole business model. It's hard for you to do that under Udemy, so you need a platform that's going to allow you to do that. And there are ones out there. In general, I don't recommend to anybody to develop their own platform unless they just want to be in the software business. But having done that myself in the past, I know that that's not often fun. So, there are platforms like, Teachable will definitely support that. They've got a capability to have basically guest authors in there doing it for you. Thinkific, I think, will do it as well. Can't quite remember if Kajabi does it. Robert, you may know. What's your perspective on this?
Well, when I read this, my perspective was that the first thing that hit me was actually is looking for a marketplace. I wouldn't develop your own marketplace, as Jeff was saying. That seems honestly to me like a nightmare, and there's really no need for that. Platforms like Thinkific, Teachable, and I do believe, and I know that Kajabi can do it. It may require a little bit of customization. I would have to get clarification on that, but definitely you want to go to one of these other hosted systems, the LMS systems. You don't need to build your own.
Yeah.
Udemy is a great platform, by the way. I have a lot of experience with Udemy, but you want to use Udemy in a specific sort of strategic way, would be my advice. And we can go into that in more detail later.
We're going to talk about that in a minute and get your experience there at Udemy. Maybe as we transition into the next set of questions here in a minute. I did also throw a link up here for a company that says it has a Udemy clone script. Basically, you can create your own Udemy. I have not fully vetted this one. I've gone and looked at it. It looks very cool, but you have to set up a specific hosting situation for it. So it's a lot easier than creating your own. Harder than doing something like a Teachable or a Thinkific or a Kajabi. Might give you more flexibility. So look at that and figure it out. So somebody is telling me that my audio is about half of that of Robert. Let me see if there's any way to adjust that. It should be kind of is what it is. I'm not sure if there's a possibility to do that or not.
I can turn down, I suppose, if that helps.
Possibly, and it might just be on that user's end, suggesting that you drop yours, that you're echoing a little bit.
Me? Okay.
Those names, we mentioned Kajabi there. I'm typing this in for Will's benefit. We mentioned Teachable. We mentioned Thinkific. I'm going to put all of those in there. I think all of those are options, and you might look at that Udemy clone script that we just referred to. So that was a question from Will, and I see Will is here. So thanks for showing up, Will. And we're going to move on to a few more questions that are really sort of related to this area of platform. These are, I've kind of grouped these together as platform type questions. The first one I don't have a great answer to, which is there a real estate education platform that can serve as a sort of a CRM, customer relationship management system? This is a group that's already got LMS in place and seems to be looking for something else. I don't know of one, and I'm not really sure what would make real estate special in that way. I would ask that question. If there's something that's really making real estate special in that regard, then what is that small set of features? Because it's got to be small, I think, and look for those specific features. But Lonnie is saying, and this is a great reason to have these types of events, because, you know, we're answering questions, but you folks in the chat also obviously have your own experience and you know things. And Lonnie is saying, check out Moxie for CRM, for RE for real estate, I'm assuming. So that's going to be a CRM. It's not really an LMS, I don't think, but it might have some, you know, ability to support LMS. You might be able to integrate that with Talent LMS and get to where you're trying to go. And that's Kim and David who've been asking that. And same groups saying they note that they're using Talent LMS right now, which, you know, if you're a training firm, if you're sort of a bigger, more sophisticated business, you need to move beyond maybe something like a Thinkific or a Teachable or a Kajabi. A Talent LMS might be something you would be looking at. This group has done that. They're trying to figure out if there's something better than that. I wanted to answer this question because I feel like there's always this grass is greener thing out there. You've got your platform and you assume there must be something better, but you know, it doesn't come down to your platform. You know, Talent LMS is a very good platform. If it's not doing something for you, you know, then go look at some that are in the same class as that. And I'm putting a link in to some other LMSs that would be learning management systems that would be in that class. You know, look for ones that might have that feature set. But I also step back and say, you know, what are you really going to get with that? Don't spend a lot of wheels on, spin your wheels a lot on your platform. That's not what's going to make your business. It's going to be, you know, the quality of your content, the quality of your relationship with your learners, the outcomes you're producing. And, you know, any platform is going to be able to usually support that to the degree that you need.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah.
Next one is, what are the characteristics of a great website for online learners? And do you have examples of websites that we think are, you know, home runs that you suggest we look at? And, you know, my view on that is the characteristics of a great website for online learners are the characteristics of a great website, period. You know, that it's going to have good usability, good structured navigation, search capabilities. You know, you prune away all of the unnecessary language and graphics. You make sure the graphics are meaningful. I personally think that Kajabi can create some fantastic websites. What's your perspective on this, Robert?
Yeah, well, I would want, when I read this question, the first thing that came to my mind, outside of only having this sort of the static pages that are required and hoping that the administration of that is user friendly and intuitive, is, from my perspective, I want to be looking for really great inbound marketing tools, email marketing tools built in if possible, your lead magnet stuff, your funnel building elements, all of this stuff. Because if you don't have these marketing tools and enable you to get your email marketing game on and the funnels and all that, then you're not going to get conversions and get sales. So my instinct when I read this question was that's to be one of the, other than static pages and its usability, I would want to know what kind of marketing features comes with it. So I'm a fan of sort of the all-in-one solution if you can find one.
You know, and I think that's a great point, great perspective too. You know, it's not just about that person landing on that site. It's about the total relationship with that person that you're creating over time. And so, yeah, are those tools built in to just really manage that entire relationship with them? That's definitely to look for in a platform.
Yes.
Now, Nina, go ahead. I was going to say Nina, who I think is on the webinar with us, is asking, you know, how preferable is it to use an existing LMS? LMS, again, learning management system for anybody who might not be familiar with all the lingo. So a Kajabi or a Teachable versus creating your own platform. You know, the goal is to be able to host courses, and there's a question of flexibility and cost efficiency, especially when the courses are yet to be made and will not be uploaded all at the same time. So at the beginning, I can only cover one. In this case, it's an exam prep course at a time. And this is often a worry for edupreneurs, I find, because, you know, you're starting things up. You don't want to go out and spend a ton of money and a ton of effort on a platform only to find out later that wasn't really the right platform and you burned through a bunch of money before you were able to even get your courses done. I would say in the first place, do not try to create your own platform. I think we've already covered that, so I won't go at that again. But I'll also say, particularly initially, you may not need a platform. I'm putting a link in the chat right now. I did a post on this a while back to question, you know, do I need an online course platform now or ever? And you want to think through that. So I'm going to refer you to that post, Nina. I'd refer others to it as well. You can do a lot with a basic website, whether that's a Wix or a WordPress site. Robert, what do you think?
Well, I think that when I read her question, I think that she has an application. However, yes, you can do a lot with sort of static type sites. For example, the CourseCREEK site happens to be on a Wix, and I'm a big fan of Wix, but I can't sell a course on it as of yet. I think she needs an LMS. That's what I'm looking at. Yeah, that's my honest response here. And we had some additional questions from her where she elaborates a little bit more on what her needs were. But I think we need to get an LMS, right?
What do you think is sparking the need in this case? And obviously we've got somewhat limited knowledge, but Nina did provide a good bit of other background on this.
She was talking about, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there were comments about using the was it Kaplan language, or she's teaching language somehow in the Philippines, I believe, correct?
I think that's right, yeah.
So I'm making some assumptions. I'm making some assumptions that there are students, language students, that need to be taught to. So.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, and there's probably going to be some testing in there too, which you're going to have a hard time doing in just a standard website. I mean, there are plugins that'll do that. But yeah, I think in general, she probably does need the LMS, though, to think through why and what she needs it for, that's going to inform what she actually gets in terms of an LMS. Getting some people saying that they're not seeing the chats going on. If you're putting stuff into the chats, and it's not intended just for Robert and I, if you would make sure you're doing it to all panelists and attendees so that everybody's seeing that. And I think I'm guilty of not doing that, so I'm actually going to go back and put some things in that I'd shared earlier that have not showed up there. So let me make sure I just shared the post about whether you need a course or not. I'm going to share again the link to the Udemy clone script. And I'm also going to share the link to the collection of learning platforms that are going to compare to something like a talent LMS. So hopefully we're caught up on the links that I've shared there. And apologies for that. I wasn't taking my own medicine.
Good stuff, Jeff. I've adjusted my volume. Does this sound better, team? Test 1, 2, check.
Yeah. Oh. You're sounding fine to me. Okay. But if folks are still having issues with it, by all means, please chime in with that. David says, yep, that sounds better. So,
all right, thanks, David.
So, and this is the last one, sort of the kind of platform category. And then after this, maybe we can actually look at some of the stuff that's in the Q&A panel before we proceed with some of the ones that were sent in earlier. So Susie's saying, I'm a teacher who's looking to create distance learning program for my school. What would the logistics be for students taking classes? Would they register through our school like any other class and then get a code for the lessons? Could people outside of the district also have access and register through the website? A lot of this is going to depend on what the rules and regulations are in your school district, all that sort of thing. But I mean, my inclination would be yes, that they're going to register through the school if they actually are a school student. And most good platforms are going to give you that ability to issue a code to somebody to then come and access the course environment. And of course, you can use those same codes or just do a straight e-commerce transaction if you're selling for anybody who's not part of the school. Robert, any other thoughts on that?
Well, I concur. I imagine you're dealing with codes or tags of some sort.
Yeah.
To sort that out. We would need to talk and kind of dig in deep and understand what the platform can do, but it would be that would be the solution, or some sort. You'd be tagging or coding to separate your different categories and demographic groups.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to jump to just a few of the questions that have come in the Q&A panel. So we're getting some of those back to the ones that the folks have submitted earlier. So Lonnie has asked, please address what choices might change if we're working with several teachers and aggregating their courses on ours. I mean, the main thing I see with that is you need the ability to give those teachers their own distinct login, the ability you want them to be able to self-manage as much as possible, or I would want that, so I'm not having to do a lot with them. But at the same time, they need to have limited control. They should only be able to control what they're doing. And you're going to want some ability, I think, to control branding, so that whatever they're publishing under your banner is going to, show up the way you want your brand to be represented. Anything else you would say on that, Robert?
No, I think you nailed it pretty much. I was actually moving on to the next question where Lonnie's talking about Vimeo. You and I recently had a couple conversations about that. Yeah. Do you recommend to embed Vimeo into our home base when uploading others already created videos? I know that the Vimeo Live, the new Vimeo Live and the new Vimeo OTT enterprise solutions do allow on-domain embeds, which could be pretty cool. You can take a code, so the HTML code, you throw it on you embed it on your own website, and that gives you allows you to sort of brand it, which is a pretty cool feature. Curious whether, Lonnie, what sort of business you're involved in.
Yeah, and you might maybe even provide a little bit of a follow-up on that, Lonnie. I'm not quite sure I understand the
Yeah.
uploading others already created videos means. So if you can provide a little bit more on that, maybe we can provide a little bit more of a response there.
That's fair.
David has asked about Learn Worlds. I guess an opinion on that. I like Learn Worlds. I've gotten to know them a little bit better over time. They're definitely in the sort of top tier of courses and platforms that I'll point people to. I always say with all of this, there is no one perfect platform, that's going to fit everybody's needs. You have to go through the process of really thinking about requirements, thinking about your strategy, thinking about your business and your learning outcomes, and figure out what aligns with that. And, good chances, that Learn Worlds is going to do that well for you. I think they tend to be very good at being able to create a sort of website environment. I don't think they're quite as powerful as Kajabi in that. They do handle SCORM, which is one of the e-learning standards that stands them out among this particular class of systems. So they have some things going for them. Again, it comes down to, what are your really core needs? And let's do maybe one more out of the questions that have been submitted. And I'm going to go to Lonnie again, who says, how might we best run a live course test pilot if our goal is to host other teachers' courses? And I'm not sure if by live test course pilot, you mean that it's actually a live course, Lonnie, or just that it's out there in the world and is accessible. I think, in any case, I assume, going to want to start with your own and get something out there that you think is going to resonate with your marketplace. Find that out. You may want to partner with one of your key teachers who you're considering within putting under your umbrella, doing that initial course with him or her, or doing an initial couple of courses. But I think I'm going to take live as meaning you're actually doing it as a live online course, which I am very much in favor of from a piloting standpoint, to do the type of thing we're doing right now, multiple sessions, getting feedback. That's one of the best ways to get some response back from your audience, find out what's really resonating with people, kind of take that other teacher for a test drive too. At the same time, get a feel for him or her, and then move into more formal structured production of perhaps a self-paced experience. Robert, how do you think about piloting? And this kind of goes, it starts to get at that question that was asked early on about going from start to finish and creating a course. I mean, do you advocate piloting? How do you get people sort of started running and getting getting some momentum and creating a course and feeling confident that they're going down the right path?
In regards to creating a course, or in regards to promoting a course?
Let's start with creating a course.
The first thing we would do is we tend to work with a storyboard or a curriculum piece. So we map out sort of a storyboard and a curriculum with a logical sequence on what your modules and lessons might be. It's one of the things we work on with our clients. And then we do some testing, some videography testing, and some on-camera testing to make sure that lighting, audio, background, these kinds of things, these simple elements are all cleaned up and look as professional as possible. So in regards to testing, building a new course, that's one of the first steps that we take clients through.
Cool. All right. So we're going to switch now. And then I wanted to ask that question because we've been sort of handling mostly platform type questions. We're going to shift a little bit more into kind of course design and the different formats that you might use in creating a course. So let me see what the first one we have here. This is from Kim and David. Again, it's saying we are developing courses that must be approved by a licensing authority at the state level. This is real estate again. Wondering what's the best online course format from a student's point of view. Is it voice over PowerPoint? Is it talking head? Is it written material to be read by students who then answer short, easy questions based on content? What's the most engaging and easy to use for course format? And I'm going to give the classic sort of frustrating consultant's answer on this, and that it depends. You have to consider what the learning outcomes you're trying to achieve are. You have to consider what those licensing authority requirements are. What are you going to have to verify along the way? Is that going to require a certain type of testing? Does it require certain types of exercises they have to go through? What do you know about your students, whether that's from observing them, from interviews, from surveying? What do you know about the market in general? You're going to have to meet certain expectations that are out there. You don't want to just copy everyone. So really, all of that has to be taken into account when you're talking about a course format or a course design and what's going to work best for your students. And of course, that takes work. There's no way around it. You got to invest the time to find that stuff out. What are your thoughts on this, Robert?
Well, I recently had an opportunity to meet with Kim. Thanks for joining us today, Kim. It's good to see you on here. Good question. So first thing that came to my mind too, Kim, this falls under the sort of the category of instructional design, which is a broad term. This is what Jeff was sort of referring to. Instructional design is, again, the storyboard, the curriculum, the sequence, and how you want to set that all up so that it creates the best learning experience. Engagement elements inside each lesson, and a lot of those engagement elements come from the platform that we choose from. And what engagement elements you want also depend a little bit upon who your audience is and what you're trying to teach. But in my notes over here, I'm looking at a spreadsheet, by the way, that Jeff and I were sharing. I'd like to advocate that in terms of formats and instructional design, that you have diversity inside your course, that it's not all screen capture or all only talking head. But you have a little bit of everything. Why? Because it makes it more engaging, more fun, more interesting, more entertaining, all of those things. And great teaching has to be, in addition to all this other stuff, has to be entertaining. That's my take on it. So we'll help you with that. And having a nice, a diversity of formats and different eye candy and different ways of presenting ideas makes for a really fun and engaging course.
Yeah. And I can see David's asked over in the chat, and Tim and David are sort of paired up here, how we feel about whiteboarding, kind of virtual whiteboarding, I guess, as part of training. I mean, it can be, if it's appropriate to the subject matter, it can be a great thing.
I think whiteboarding can be really cool. The very fact that whiteboarding is sort of, can have sort of a little bit of a messy element to it on occasion for a few lectures, depending upon what you're talking about, can be super cool. It can be a way to sort of connect with your audience in a more personable, campy way for a moment. I wouldn't do an entire course on whiteboarding unless it is specifically about whiteboarding. But on occasion, that's another element, another way, a format of delivering an idea. I mean, what do we have? We have screen capture, talking head, which we have to do for sure, and there's specific reasons for that. Whiteboarding, mashups, and a few other elements and things like that. But I think they're cool. I think if you use them sparingly, it could be a fun way to make a point. Yeah,
definitely. And a great way to get the learners, the students to, roll their sleeves up and get into it and not just be absorbing material that you're trying to pour into their head like in a bucket. I'm gonna skip to a question here from Claire. And I'm gonna ask you to take this one, Robert, first. She's saying at this stage,
sure,
like to get a simple course out there quickly, cheaply, has no income at all due to coronavirus crisis. This is, obviously a situation so many people facing right now. So she can't really pay a monthly subscription. She'd be happy to give a % of her sales in exchange for free hosting. So that would be awesome. But how do you respond to this?
If you could just point me to which question are we at here?
This is in my sheet. I'm not sure we're looking at this. It's Claire. And it's around row 10 or so.
I got it. I just wanted to see what my written response was on that in preparation is all. Stage, yeah. Okay. Claire, several ways we can go for this, but what first comes to mind is probably keeping it simple with some of the self-hosted platforms that are already available. For example, our good friends at Udemy for Business, Skillshare, maybe Coursera. These guys that already offer a marketplace, and you can get on them without having to pay a dime. And it's fairly simple, it's quick, and don't let the simplicity of platforms like Udemy and what have you lead you to think that it can't be profitable, because it can be very, very profitable if you set it up properly.
Yeah, definitely. And you've had that experience, right? Or maybe you can talk
Oh,
at this point
oh,
about your Udemy experience.
sure. So all of my courses and all the courses that I've worked on with pretty much all of them with clients do include a Udemy offering. And one of the things that we can talk about is how you repurpose the same content on more than one platform, which would include your own personally owned platform, the Kajabi, the Teachables, the Thinkifics of the world. And then there's these marketplaces that you guys have all heard a lot about, Udemy, Udemy for Business, Skillshare, Coursera. And there's a way to work with both of them. You don't have to make a choice. This might be one of the important takeaways for you guys to realize is not always, and I rarely see in talking to people, any situation where you have to say, well, I'm going to just only host it myself, or I have to make a choice between the two. Actually, I'm advocating that you don't make a choice between the two in most cases. And if you don't, you set it up properly, it can be the most successful way of going about reaching more and more students and having a more successful business. So shorter answer is I have gobs of experience on Udemy. I know how they work and how to set it up and how to sort of work with their program to maximize your efforts in regards to traffic and funnels and getting business to your own domain.
I mean, it's almost like a form of content marketing in a way, though you're generating some revenue off of that content marketing.
It's it is. I sometimes I like to say they basically are paying you to send you traffic. It's the world's best lead magnet in the world. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So you got to know how to set it up and arrange it and all that. But yeah, it's fantastic. I think they're great.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump on there a couple things, a few things that related. They got asked in the Q&A that I'll jump on here real quick. So Lonnie has asked, that Udemy will push down what you charge, so it's mostly used for marketing, right? She's asking basically about that content marketing. I mean, Udemy does, they have their pricing process, their pricing procedures, so you can end up with a low price on your course. That's true. You don't have a lot of control over that. So yeah, you got to be conscious of that. Go in with eyes wide open, and like Robert's saying, there are ways to still use that.
Yeah. Don't let the campy flash sales on Udemy scare you away. Believe me, and that can happen. It happened to me. I thought, oh man, I like sort of tried it, and then when I got in deeper and I met other people that are on the platform and use it the proper way, I became to realize, well, it's all in how you use it and how they market your course, and it can be very lucrative. Believe me, it works. It's a good part of anybody's strategy.
Yeah. And Robert's, I've always been a little down on Udemy. It's still not my favorite because of what's necessary to actually, be successful on it. But I do fully agree there's a place for it, and that it can be a key component of your overall course business.
I'll let you guys in on a little bit of a hint. Udemy is not the end game. It's not the place where the customer's journey stops. It's only a place where it potentially begins for some people.
Yeah. And
then we could talk about why that, how that would work. But no, I mean, the end game is on your platform. And it is for my courses too. I have all of my courses on my own website as well, where we do a much more robust, serious, higher value offering. So I'm not only selling out on Udemy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the key, because, Udemy, it's going to open up your market for you. It's going to showcase your expertise. It's going to attract people to you, but then you want to get them to you and provide more value there, which of course you're going to charge more for. You're going to have more control over all of that stuff, So hopefully that response to Lonnie was asking, I think, for more of a hint about Udemy. Hopefully we've answered that. And somebody else had asked, I can find this real quick in the flow that's come in here. Bob had asked, what about course content ownership when you're using a hosted platform? Pretty much all of them, you retain your rights. I mean, be careful to read the fine print, but they're all competing with each other. They're going to make sure that you still have the rights to your intellectual property. Basically, they don't really care about your intellectual property. They just want to attract that, people to them to get that revenue share. Okay. I'm going to jump back over to the spreadsheet. There are a couple more sort of format design type questions, or maybe just one more here. I can't remember, that had been asked. One is is it advisable to pair up online classes with scheduled physical classes? This is what traditionally gets referred to as blended learning, so blending online and offline. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we're in a period now where those scheduled physical classes aren't a great thing anymore. Hopefully, that will come back. But I'm a big fan of blending online and offline. That can be a big part of how you do provide that additional value that you're going to provide to your folks. Robert, do you have experience with that? What's your take on that sort of online offline?
Well, so offline has been for me and for a lot of my partners and clients something that happens as an upsell, so to speak, in the customer journey. So the idea of in the moment online offline with labs and sort of things is a great idea. I haven't done that quite so much with my program. I guess with my students, they do practice offline, don't they, Jeff? I mean, maybe I am doing that and not aware of it. So, so I'll reframe this. An offline element to your course strategy is one of the most important aspects that actually gets traffic to your domain, that will enable you to continue to take the customer up a value ladder or a journey which basically means they can purchase more services and upgrade with you, which might be private lessons or consultation phone calls and sort of things that you don't really get at the entry level in the customer journey. Does that make sense, Jeff?
Yeah, and I know the way that we've used this, and this is becoming very common, I think, with a lot of online course producers, is you've got whatever you're doing online, whether it's live or self-paced or whatever. But
yeah,
that's often accompanied by like an annual event of some sort. That's what we did. We do all sorts of things online, but then we have an annual conference, or we're not doing the physical conference anymore at this point, but we do plan to come back to it. So there are a lot of different ways to think about this, but it's important to think about, Nina, because whether it's an actual class or whether it's just some other form of offline engagement paired up with that online engagement, there's a lot of value that can be created there, and hopefully we'll get back to a point where that pairing is possible.
The student engagement and student activity inside the courses spawns and creates the offline events, be it a private lesson or workshop or a seminar or something like that. That is something that I'm experiencing and doing every day. I've done sort of 65 workshops around the world, and a lot of those people first bought the product, they bought the course, and then they show up to the event. So that's how I see offline as another service that sort of is a little bit, has more value for the customer if they want more.
Yep. Quick tool question here. I'll ask you, Robert. What's your favorite video tool? How do you like to create video?
Well, I'm going to confess, I have taken iMovie as far as it can possibly go for the editing, of a lot of my content. And as early as this morning, I purchased Camtasia. I haven't used Camtasia personally, but I am very much aware of it. And there's something that I learned when I went to the Udemy Live event in Berlin this last October. I had the opportunity to do a keynote there. And I noticed that all the creators there, pretty much all of them, were big on Camtasia. And that said something to me. Camtasia is sort of the tool for educators, course creators, content creators. Wouldn't you say, Jeff? It seems that way.
Yeah, it's my favorite at this point. I've used ScreenFlow a lot, but that's Mac specific. You can only use it on Mac, and it's not quite as feature rich, in my opinion, as Camtasia. Camtasia will work on both platforms, which is the main reason I need to kind of standardize on that and recommend it. But yeah, I think every course creator, even if you're just doing a little bit with video, and most course creators should be doing a lot with video, you need Camtasia in your tool set. Yep,
that's the impression I'm getting. So I bought it this morning.
Cool. So we're going to get into some marketing stuff now. First one of these is, should we use video snippets to create YouTube outputs for marketing purposes? What do you think, Robert?
Well, one thing that that I've done for years, and be happy to talk to you guys about it, is repurposing your content. So for example, if you have a plan to do 12 to 20 videos this week for your course, you'll find that some of that content, not all of it, will be used for the course for whatever reason. Maybe it's quite not good enough, or you did another take, it was better, who knows. But you don't want to discard that content. There's opportunities to repurpose content for different platforms. So what was originally designed to be inside your course can now, with a few changes and some fun edits, can now be something that's really super powerful out at YouTube. So the idea of doing one piece of work, one piece of content, and then finding ways to repurpose that effort on multiple platforms is something that I recommend you learn how to do.
Yeah, and I'm sure people have heard that message before. I hope they have. It can be harder to absorb and to be, really thoughtful about making sure you're doing it on a consistent basis. But man, you just get so much mileage out of repurposing, and it goes in all directions, from videos into text, back out into audio, or whatever it might be. It can, always be thinking about that. I've got a blog post, I should have gotten a link to that one here, called "Everything is a Production Event." And you want to be thinking that way. And every time you produce something, there are probably 10 ways you can use it. So definitely. I was just going to finish that thought by saying YouTube, of course, second biggest search channel out there. So having meaningful, relevant content that highlights your expertise and leads people back to your courses on YouTube is almost always a good thing to do.
Yeah, YouTube is a very effective, very popular lead magnet. It's bringing in traffic, and I have a YouTube channel. It's very active, and it sends all kinds of traffic. It's like the third highest source of traffic to my website. When you're producing content, one thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to be thinking about different categories or different types of content that you need for your entire operation. There's content that is slated for, that we call paid content. That's part of what we're talking about mostly today. Then there's what I call sort of like the free content out at YouTube and social media content. There's lifestyle content. There's product pitch content that's actually talking about your product. There's event content. There's testimonial content. There's accountability content. There's many different kinds of content that you're going to be aware of when you begin to fire up your gear and making stuff. Yeah,
definitely. So you've got that content. This next question starts to get into, okay, how do you promote yourself out there? And this person's asking, regarding PR, kind of, public relations, taking that as kind of just marketing, promotions, maximization, efficiency. How would you best determine which media outlets your target customer consumes and trusts, that also have a large enough audience to be worth targeting for your PR efforts? There are thousands of podcasts, news outlets, influencers, too many to reach out to do interviews for them all. So, how do you make sense of that? And the first way, this may sound like sort of a flip answer, but it's what you got to do is ask your audience, whether that means surveys, interviews, about what they're reading, what they're listening to. I'd also say too that for most people, their specific world, hopefully you've defined your market and your potential audience pretty well. It's probably not as big as you think. So if you sit down, you can probably easily list out, the 15 to 20 potentially valuable channels that are out there. Monitor those people, those channels, to see what kind of input they're getting on those, who's engaging, what they're saying. You can use tools like BuzzSumo to see what's trending on social media and content areas that you care about. And you're going to be able to see who's posting that content, and those are people you can follow. So there's some fairly efficient steps you can take to do this. I'll make sure I send out. There's a post I did on 15 ways to assess your market a while back. I don't have that handy right now. Maybe I can grab it here in a minute. But those market assessment tools are what's going to also reveal, your channels and who those influencers and movers and shakers are that you want to connect with in your market. And you want to you then focus on building those relationships over time. It's not going to happen overnight. Robert and I have known each other for years now, and we're now really sort of capitalizing on that relationship. What do you think, Robert?
Well, I rather liked your answer in regards to the PR. I liked the idea of going out and doing sort of a poll of some sort where you could get your tribe's feedback on what they're looking for and where they go for their PR. Yeah, I my PR has been pretty much social media almost exclusively.
Yeah, I would say mine has been much more, a combination of content marketing, SEO, and building relationships with just good people in the marketplace, who we help drive traffic back and forth to. I've done a lot of fair amount of podcast appearances on other people's podcasts, and
Uh-huh.
I've run podcasts myself too, which I also highly recommend these days. So
That's
just
a good.
go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a good point. I've done a lot of interviewing. I guess that's PR, isn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
there are lots of interviews, and I found that it's not difficult really to get an interview. When you start getting out there, people will come out and they'll approach you, but you can literally go out and these guys, these podcasters and the people that are doing interviews and shows, they need content.
Yeah,
They need they're waiting for you to ask them to interview you. That
yeah,
might be surprising to a lot of you guys. Sometimes it's very flattering. You get an invite, but then, oh yeah, I've had a few interviews like, oh, your show is really cool. I'd like to talk on your show, and they're like, oh yeah, that'd be great. We have a slot open on Wednesday. Just go for it. When you do an interview, by the way, try to get a file. Remember, we were talking about that repurposing content idea. I'm very conscientious of I'm going to put in 2 hours of my time preparing for this thing, doing this whole thing. At the end of it, I want to be able to get an audio or a video file out of it so I can then push it through Camtasia, touch it up, repurpose it, throw it up on my course, throw it up on YouTube, get some mileage out of it.
yeah, definitely. I'm often not good enough about doing that, but that's very, very good to do. And to your point, I mean, I run a podcast, the Leading Learning Podcast, that some folks on this might be interested in. We're getting close to episode 250. We're at the point now where, I mean, people are approaching us all the time, so we do turn away a lot. But we still, I mean, that's one of the main challenges of running a podcast, is finding good content. So if you've got good solid content, something interesting to say, take the time to prepare, as you just indicated, Robert. So when you get on, you're talking points, you're not just waiting,
Yep.
and you're really getting that value out there. I'm really, really bullish on podcasting. I'm really bullish on getting onto people's webinars if you can. Frank has mentioned marketing through technical forums. So I'm assuming these are forums sort of in whatever space Frank is in. I've done a lot of that too. There, industry associations and that sort of thing that I belong to, where
Mhm.
you don't want to be spammy about it. You need to do something that actually contributes value, showcases your expertise, but that can be a big thing as well. We're starting to come around the curve here, so I'm going to see if we can, just really kind of rapid fire do some of the rest of these, because I do want to give a minute to, or more than a minute, for you to talk a little bit about working with CourseCREEK, Robert. So
Okay.
got a question from Greg about, I'm sorry, actually I'm going to do Paul first. He's talking about building what he calls a wealth building school. He wants to do, affiliate marketing, and he's set up a presence in JVZoo, which I'll type that in if folks aren't familiar with JVZoo. It's a good marketing aggregation type site that you can put your products into. And he wants to know if he can do, should do more than that. I'll just note that, platforms like Teachable, Kajabi, Thinkific, they've all got an affiliate function in them. So you can, set up an affiliate program for your teachers to sell and for your students to sell your stuff. You can also use something like JVZoo if you want to go with something that's sort of a bigger marketplace than just your own platform. In my experience, I do a lot with affiliate marketing. We generate a lot of revenue through affiliate sales. The biggest thing when you're the person who has the affiliate product is to find good affiliates, to find affiliates that are actually going to do something for you. So my preference is not to open it up to the world. It's to really find people and vet them, make sure they've got the qualities that you need. Best platform in the world isn't going to get you any affiliate sales if you don't have good affiliates.
Yes, I have affiliates. and a lot of them do nothing, but a few, sort of the 80-20 rule, a few do a lot. And an affiliate strategy is definitely at the top of the list of things that you need to consider and needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
It's a big part of your business.
Yeah, it's something that can really take you to a new level if you're able to do it right.
Mhm.
So definitely be thinking about that. Few more here. We've got an association that's building classes that are going to combine into a course pathway that leads to an accreditation. We're getting into some pricing stuff here that relates to marketing as well. So struggling with the factors to use when deciding how to price individual courses, as well as the overarching course, the 10 parts of that path. This person says there are no comparables for them to look for. They're breaking new ground. So struggling to decide what things they ought to be paying attention to when making pricing decisions, which should they simply ignore. I've written a lot about pricing, and I'll maybe send some of those links out with the follow-up on this. The things I look at are, you need to look at how whatever this is fits within your current portfolio, because you've already got things you're selling that are priced a certain way, and you need some logic to how you're pricing things. So where do those sit in relation to other things that you're offering? You need to look out at, sort of the market expectations around it. I mean, you say there are no comparables, but there are plenty of associations out there that are offering sort of pathway type offerings. I'd encourage you to look at the National Wood Flooring Association, NWFA. I'd encourage you to look at NIGP, the Institute for Public Procurement. They both do a pathways type thing. And then with any pricing, you got to look at, what's the unique value you're providing? How timely is the content? What kind of connections are you creating for people? And then what's the ultimate value of that credential that you're creating for them, and how are you going to articulate that value? So that's how I would approach this. And then kind of, I think the last one here we'll talk about actually, I'm going to skip down because there are a couple questions here that actually relate to that last question, at least in my mind, because they're about, how do we develop CE classes, continuing education classes? And this is strategically, this is a great thing. If you're able to offer continuing education credit, that can be a real demand magnet. We've seen that, year over year in doing research in the markets that we follow. A lot of times, they're going to be state boards, national boards that are going to govern what qualifies for continuing education. You may not want to go through the trouble of trying to become an issuer of continuing education, somebody who's authorized to actually give the credit, because that's usually a much higher hurdle. You're either going to have to go through that state board, or you're going to have to go through a big organization like IACET, which is the International Association for Continuing Education and Training. For most course creators, that's not going to be worth it. But a lot of times you can associate yourself with somebody who can issue credit. So for example, we run webinars that qualify for what's called CAE credit, so Certified Association Executive Credit. Greg, who would ask the association question, might be familiar with this. We don't issue that credit, but people who attend our webinars can get a certificate from us that they can then take to the American Society of Association Executives and get credit for having participated in that webinar. So in your particular field or industry, look for those associations that you might be able to work with to then be able to offer continuing education under their umbrella. And that can really open up some demand for you in your particular market. So I definitely encourage you to look at CE, continuing education units. It's called different things in different markets. So we're coming around to the end here, and we can stay over a little bit if we need to address some other questions. But part of what prompted this whole session here was obviously Robert and I, our two organizations, Learning Revolution and CourseCREEK, have entered into this relationship. If you've seen my communications on it, for years now, as I've been doing Learning Revolution, I've been asked by people to do consulting, to help them, hands-on, get their course business, their courses off the ground. I've done a ton of that in the past. Like I said, I owned an online course development company. I have a consulting company called Tagoras that does a lot of, strategy consulting with big organizations. It was never really my ambition to do that with Learning Revolution. So it's been too long a time coming, but I wanted to find a partner who can help with that. And Robert and CourseCREEK are that partner. So Robert, I'd like to give you the stage here to talk a little bit about, what CourseCREEK can provide, what it's like to work with you. Maybe, even tracing back to that sort of early question we had about, what it's like to kind of take things from an idea to hopefully having a thriving course business at some point.
Yeah. Okay. Well, CourseCREEK is a company that consists of myself and the years of experience of putting together courses, planning, instructional design, on-camera work, promoting, and marketing. And it includes a team. And honored to have Jeff as part of our team as our e-learning advisor. But in addition to Jeff, on our team are people that have been working with me for years on my courses. So when we work with the contracting team, they know the business. They know exactly what they're looking for. So what CourseCREEK is doing is, I like to say, the four pillars of online course production. We do strategy and planning. That's going to be provided by myself, and the strategy and planning will be working on trying to solidify and crystallize your idea, and an idea that we feel is marketable, that you're excited about, that will resonate with students, and that is also has the ability to sort of map out nicely with instructional design. We'll then move on to storyboards, curriculum, and very quickly get into videography and on-camera coaching to help you to be able to prepare to do proper production. Beyond the consulting and the production work is where I spend most of my time. We then begin to implementation. A lot of the discussion today has been about platforms. It's a popular platform. Platform sits inside implementation. So at that point, we would then be taking a look at the platform and uploading what we call the assets, or your video files, so to speak, to the platforms. And as I mentioned earlier, in most cases, I'm probably going to recommend more than just your own personal platform, but some other sort of third-party platforms that will feed into that. So implementation, and then after that, ongoing digital marketing to nurture the traffic and make sure that you're still achieving high conversions. So that's sort of the 40,000-foot view. We look at it as strategy planning, production, implementation, and then ongoing digital marketing. And CourseCREEK does the heavy lifting. Sort of get in there and take you from, I know I need to do this, I know I want to do this, I don't know how to get there, or I know how to get there, I have some files, I've gotten started, but I'm off to a rough start. We kind of clean all that up, get that sorted out for you, get you on a path that we know is going to be success or has a high rate of success, and then send you down a path and tell you exactly what you need to do to get to where you need to go.
Cool. And I think for so many people, whether it's your first course or whether it's your 50th, having that kind of support team with you can just be invaluable. I mean, you're almost certainly going to be able to get things done faster. You're going to be able to get them done better. I know a lot of people probably hesitate, when it comes to getting the course help, when it comes to getting training, whatever, saying, obviously it's an investment to not do it yourself. But I tell you, it'll cost you more if you're floundering around for months or years, not ever getting anything out into the marketplace. So you really, you have to look at it. It's an investment, not an expense, to be able to do that. And so I put the link to our page on learningrevolution.net for CourseCREEK, just learningrevolution.net/CourseCREEK, that I encourage folks to go check out. You can see a little bit of my talking about the relationship, and then there's also a form there to be able to submit to set up an initial consultation with Robert, so you can let him know what you are thinking and figure out what's going to make sense from there. So
yeah,
we're getting
excited to help you all. It'd be great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
We're getting to the top of the hour here. We've covered really the vast majority of the questions. So I think, what we'll probably do is we'll take a look and see if there's some that it makes sense for us to follow up with by email. And obviously, if you have any burning questions that we just have not answered yet, we encourage you to go ahead and email those to us. I'm actually going to share a slide here so we can share the link there for CourseCREEK on Learning Revolution. I'm going to type in my email address. It's just jcobb@learningrevolution.net. You all probably know that, but just so it's handy here in the chat. If you do want to follow up and ask me anything about this, you can do the same with Robert. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this first Ask Us Anything session. I'm thinking this is probably, one of a number that we will do over time, as long as you're game for that, Robert.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm totally into it. Let's help these people out. That's why we're here. Yeah.
Definitely. So hopefully this has been useful to you. We will send out a link to a recording for this, so you can go back and review everything. When I send out an email about that, which would be sometime tomorrow, I'll try to include links to different things, or put up a page with some links to different things that so you can access those and be able to go and check out some of the many different things that we mentioned during the session today. So with that, hey Robert, I'm going to say thank you to you. And thank you to everybody who attended here and shared your questions. And I've learned a lot in the process as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Nice job. And it's great to meet you and to your tribe. Thanks for sharing your tribe with me. And I'm excited to help you guys out. Just give me a call. Make sure you fill out Jeff's form.
Cool. Thanks everybody. Take care.